Hey, this is Irvin Griffin. And as you see this picture again of Holly Berry doing some exercising, uh, some kind of yoga or something, there's a reason I'm putting this up. Last time it was just to marvel how good she looked at 51. This time I'm doing this to make a point. As great as she looks, I got to thinking, there's other women who are also actresses that in fact look just as good, but maybe didn't get the notoriety or the attention that Miss Holly Berry did. And I'm actually about to bring up one right now in a few seconds. For those of you that have followed Young and the Restless or have seen Distinguished Gentleman, and here she is right here. This woman's name is Victoria Rowell. She was mainly known for soap opera acting on Young and the Restless as the character Drusilla. But as I said, if you've seen other films such as Distinguished Gentleman with Eddie Murphy, where she plays basically his love interest there, she's also was a long-running character on a Dick Van Dyke show called Diagnostics Murder for several years as let's see, the doctor's name, I forgot what the character's name was. She was a long run. In fact, I think Dr. Amanda Bentley. It was a medical, it was a little bit of a comedy, but it was more of a crime drama, which ran from 1993 to 2001, and she actually appeared on both shows simultaneously. She was actually working on Young and the Restless and Diagnostic Murder at the same time. In fact, in one of the early episodes, as a kind of a rib on her, they did an episode where her character of Dr. Amanda Bentley actually made a guest spot on Young and the Restless. But she's been in things such as the original Dumb and Dumber, Bob Wire, that awful film featuring Pamela Anderson, and Eve's Bayou. She's also an NAACP award winner mostly for Young and the Restless. I think she's won awards on there 11 times, and actually her life is actually pretty extraordinary. She was born in Portland, Maine in 1959. Her mother was of English descent and a Mayflower descendant, and her birth father, whose surname was Wilson, was of African American descent. So I'm assuming she, just like Holly Berry, is biracial, because it doesn't specify what race, but they said English descent and was a Mayflower descendant, probably more than likely Caucasian. Let's see what else we got here. Dorothy, her mother suffered from schizophrenia, took a taxi to the hospital to give birth to Victoria, while leaving a son and two small daughters that she already had unsupervised. And then when she was just 16 days old, basically her, along with her siblings, was given up for adoption. And now we get to the bit of the fun part. Her let's just say her life as far as domestic is very similar to Holly Berry's. Her first marriage was to a guy named Tom Fahey in 1989. It only lasted 1 year, but she had a daughter as a result of that marriage. A daughter named Maya. So I'm figuring her firstborn is probably an adult by now. Rowell, as everyone knows, had a long-term relationship with the jazz musician Wynton Marsalis, and their union produced a son named Jasper. And she was married to Radcliffe Bailey from 2009 to 2014, which, quite frankly, with the exception of her very first marriage, even her long-term domestic relationship with Wynton Marsalis outlasted most of Holly Berry's relationships, quite frankly. Even her short marriage to Radcliffe was longer than most of her marriages. And according to what I'm reading, she founded a foundation called Rowell Foster Children Positive Plan, which gives emotional support and financial aid to foster children, especially to those who aspire to become actors and dancers. And she also published a memoir of her life that focused on her time in foster care called The Women Who Raised Me. And I do know for a fact that she now writes a soap opera of her own called The Rich and the Ruthless, I believe it's called, which is on the UMC streaming channel. You might have heard me talk about it before. It's basically Black Netflix is what it is. It's a black version of Netflix, which is a streaming service. And yes, it's called Rich and the Ruthless. And as you can see from the pictures I flashed by, Victoria Rowell was just as beautiful. And yes, she had just as many issues, if not more, than Holly Berry. But I don't hear nearly the same stories as Holly Berry. And whatever went on in her relationships, she pretty much kept to herself. And even more impressive to me, even as a black man, is the fact that she's always stayed true to her heritage. And as far as I know, she has never thrown men of color under the bus, unlike Holly Berry. Hey, I gave props to Holly Berry physically for keeping herself up. But I also said emotionally and mentally, she's a pretty broken woman. She's a very broken woman. And while Victoria Rowell is certainly not perfect, I think she has it a lot more together. So I will say this. If I was going to take a gamble on one of these two, even though Victoria Rowell is older, she's almost 60, but she still looks pretty good for 60. Or almost 60. She's 59. She still looks pretty good. I think I would take my chances on Miss Rowell over Miss Holly Berry. But in any case, just wanted to say that. And the only accoutrement is the music in the background, which I think is appropriate for this video. Anyway, I'm Irvin Griffin. You have a nice day, folks.